What's up, guys? This is Justin from the I Believe in Humans podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This show is made possible with the generous donations from patrons like yourself supporting us over at Patreon. So head on over to Patreon, check out the different membership levels we have, subscribe, and take advantage of all the extra cool bonus content that we'll be throwing your way that is exclusive to Patreon members only. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate the support. We'll see you next time.
It's one small step for man.
Welcome to Earth.
One giant leap for mankind.
What's up, man? It's Rick.
UFOs are real.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the I Believe in Humans podcast. I'm your host, Justin. That's Dustin. And we are so excited to have you back today.
Oh, yeah.
Dustin, the seasons have officially changed. I hit the grocery store just the other day looking for Sam Adams Summer Ale. And much to my dismay, it is apparently it's off the shelves already. And I'm not too hurt because my second favorite beer is there, which is Sam Adams Oktoberfest has now arrived.
Oh yeah, it's delicious. If I was drinking beer right now, I'd be grabbing it. But
doing the Oktoberfest.
Yeah, I've been off beer and soda for the year. Actually,
look at you!
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been hard. I feel good.
Trying to squeeze yourself back into like an adult medium, or what are you trying to go for?
I'm going for the large. Keep it nice and tight. The skinny jeans are still fitting good though, so I can't complain there. I'm trying to figure out what my first drink will be New Year's Eve.
You're a little behind the seasons. You're like, normally people go for the summer body. You're going for like the fall to winter body, or what?
I'm just trying to get healthy, man. That's the name of the game nowadays with COVID and my age, if you will.
Well, you know what you should do is I think your first drink should be one of them pumpkin drinks that's like there's pumpkin beer, pumpkin coffee.
I mean,
pumpkin
I like
spice
that.
lattes.
I like that stuff, but that can't be my first drink. It's probably gonna be like the Mexican Coke in the glass bottle. That'll be the first one.
A Mexican Coke. Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
What are those, like the Jarritos?
No. Coca-Cola.
Oh, you just want like the with the straight
classic
cane,
Coke. The classic Coke, cane sugar, man, like in the glass bottle.
I thought you were talking about the
crisp
Mexican orange sodas they used to sell back at like
those are good too, but
Super Taqueria in our hometown.
Well, Maybe that'll be number two.
Well, I like your shirt, and I mean, every time I see those
my shirts,
those pumpkin lattes, I think of you because you're what the kids like to call a basic bitch.
Oh, fuck you, bro. For real? I'm not even into that kind of stuff. I mean, let's see. What's my favorite?
I see you wearing I see you walking around in your leggings and your equestrian boots and like your vests, your sleeveless Gap vests.
When was the last time you ever saw me wear a vest?
You like to look like Han Solo.
I went through like a 1-year phase of that vest, so.
Well, it was a good year.
Moving on. Today's episode is about Valiant Thor.
Ooh.
And if any of you haven't heard who Valiant Thor is, I've asked a lot of my friends, and I think JT, you didn't know who Valiant Thor was until you mentioned him actually a few episodes ago. Are
you talking about the band? I know who the band is.
You know the band is, but
who are you talking about?
I'm talking about the alien. Supposedly, Valiant Thor was an alien that crash landed here in 1957 to warn us about nuclear fallout, nuclear war. Mm-hmm. And supposedly there's just so many legends and stories surrounding this name. I mean, with Eisenhower, when he was president, supposedly he left and had this secret meeting with Valiant Thor, and somehow this alien got access. And when you think about this alien, he's not like the big green head, little body. No, he looks like you and I, maybe a little bit more handsome in the pictures that have leaked on the internet. There's a couple different ones.
Yeah, so the story is Valiant Thor and his band of misfits landed their ship in Alexandria, Virginia. and they came here to basically after we started we dropped the nuclear bombs, and we were testing more after World War II, and they were like coming to warn us about the hey, you're gonna destroy your planet and stuff. So they came from Venus, is supposedly what happened. Apparently he parks his spaceship in the park. He's approached by 2 police officers. He tells them who he is, and somehow he ends up like working his way up the chain of command and getting to the White House and meeting Mr. or President Eisenhower, as you said. So yeah, it's quite the wild ride. But you're right. It's a slippery slope, and it's a massive rabbit hole. It's a fun rabbit hole, though, I will say. This is more folkloric, I would say, than some of the other stuff we've covered. It's it's in the vein of conspiracy or conspiratorial, but there's not as much like hard, irrefutable type stuff like when we're talking about the moon, right? The moon, you've got like video, there's tons of paperwork and documentation. With Valiant Thor, there's like 1 or 2 guys who like wrote these books that really kind of, that's the lion's share of the information regarding this character. So did you get a chance to kind of dive into this stuff? What did you find out when you were kind of poking around?
Well, Dr. Frank E. Stranges was the first to talk about Valiant Thor, and he published a book, Stranger in the Pentagon, Stranger of the Pentagon, Stranger from the Pentagon,
Strangers at the Pentagon,
Strangers and the Pentagon, along those lines.
And Google it, you'll find it.
Yeah, so that tells you how much I really know about this. Mostly it's just folklore that's out there that I've known this kind of for a while. I've heard the name before. I knew it was just an alien that came down. I always thought of it as a comic book story or more myth than anything. But I mean, Dr. Stranges wrote the book as if it was true, that he actually met this guy or this alien. And
he swears up and down that it was true. Yeah. I mean, he pretty much made a career. He was on a lecture circuit going to like ufology conventions and like charging people money to come and hear him tell the story of Valiant Thor. So like this wasn't just like a one-time encounter. Like this isn't a short story when you start talking about Frank Stranges and this book and stuff. But it's a wild ride. It's up and down, and you're like, was this guy? What kind of drugs was this guy on when he was doing this? Because it's wild, and he's kind of like zany when he talks about it. It's funny. He was an evangelist, like preacher. So he was a public speaker, and I think there's clips online on YouTube. You can find him like giving, sermons, and he's actually pretty good. So he's definitely good at like whipping up people into a frenzy and telling stories. So I think this was kind of right in line with what in his wheelhouse, so to speak.
Yeah, it makes you want to believe. It's fun to go down you don't have to truly believe in all these stories, but it's fun to entertain them. And what I kind of buy in though about the story, because there's a lot of gray areas to it, but I truly believe one of the theories the rabbit hole I go down is that we were intervened in the past about nuclear warfare, and that's why the Cold War stopped. And I think that there's an alien race that came here and gave us a warning. So I wonder how much of his story is true, if it's all true. You came across a couple or an interesting coincidence. I mean, there's a couple pictures online of 2 different quote unquote Valiant Thors. They look very different.
Tomas, can you pull up the one with the guy with the brown hair in like the crowd? And this is like supposedly Valiant Thor. There's only 2 pictures of this guy that exists. So there's like just him solo. Do you have the crowd shot with him, Tomas? Because he's sitting next to, there we go. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're pulling this up. If you're just listening, we'll put it on Instagram and stuff. You can check it out. But what you're looking at is the guy in the foreground to the right of the photo. That's Valiant. Okay, so that's Valiant Thor. The gentleman who's like dead center frame, that is, I believe his name was just Don. And he came on the ship. Thor. Don Thor came on the ship with Valiant. And then the woman to Don's right is Jill. And she also arrived. And there was apparently another female companion, and her name was Tanya. And so this is apparently them, like, I don't know, in Congress or something. I mean, it looks period specific, like the haircuts, the suits.
It's a good photo.
It's definitely a photo from the 1950s.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen as to whether, like, we don't know who these people are. The funny thing is, you can't say that that's Valiant Thor, but you also can't say it's not Valiant Thor because whoever these people are, it's not like someone has come out since this story's been around and been like, that's not Valiant Thor, that's my grandpa. And he was like, you know, a military veteran that was invited to the White House one day. Like that hasn't happened. So that's what adds to the mystery of this, right?
And what has happened is a lot of people have come out and said that they've met him in the past, that they met him during this time, and that he absolutely was real the 3.5 years that he was here being harbored in the U.S. That photo looks candid enough. It doesn't look like it was made for a promotional piece, because that photo kind of came up as a promotional piece for the book.
Right.
But
that came from Frank Stranges, right? So that's the thing this is kind of the thing with Frank Stranges is he's the one that supplied this photo. So we don't know. He's the only person that's been able to like verify this, right? Yeah. So even if you wanted to debunk it, you know, you could just debunk Frank Stranges as someone who's out there selling books and, you know, on tour, and he's just trying to make $1 off this. Sure.
Which makes sense, yeah.
But you can't really, like I said, it's not the age of the internet where you can go to this guy's Facebook page and compare and contrast what they look like. The other thing is that the only way, so these are very human-looking people. The only way, supposedly, you could tell that Valiant Thor was alien was, one, he told you, but two, supposedly, when he shook your hand, he had no fingerprints or identifying marks, and also, they say that he was supposed to have 6 fingers, okay? Which is just like an odd detail to throw in there. Yeah. And Tomas just pulled up like a close-up shot, so this guy who's supposed to be Valiant Thor in this photo, he's holding like paperwork or something, but you can clearly see his hands, and you look close enough, it doesn't look like he has 6 fingers. I mean,
but I don't think it's conclusive enough that he doesn't. I mean,
but here's where my brain goes with this, because again, I always try to look at like the humanistic approach. My approach to all these stories that we talk about is like the people and the source, and not necessarily Frank Stranges, but like the human instinct to want to be like make $1 or be like important, right? Have self-worth. So when I see a photo like this and I hear a detail like that, here's the 2 questions that come to my mind. If you're totally making up the story and you're the one that gave us the photo, like how would you not know that we can see the guy's hands? And then it's like, why would you put like a detail out there like that he had 6 fingers when we can see in the photo that I don't think he does. To me, it looks like it's normal hands.
Oh, I think it's inconclusive.
You know, I guess, I don't know, like if I'm going to lie because I want to sell books or whatever, I'd at least look at my own photo and like make sure that my story lines up. So it's just weird. Like I said, I'm not trying to say that it's totally a lie.
Enhance.
Yes.
Enhance.
But to me, this just looks like a normal dude. He's wearing like a wristwatch.
It looks like it looks like he has 5 knuckles on that hand.
No,
it looks like
4.
He has 5 knuckles.
Oh my God!
The way the light hits it, like I said, inconclusive. It's like a touchdown.
You've had one too many pumpkin spice lattes before the show.
No, dude. We'll put that on the Instagram and do a little.
We will.
Poll,
you be the judge. You be the judge. Okay.
I mean, this could be one of 3 things. It's either Frank lied to just sell some books. He is real. And he actually is an alien that came here from Venus to warn us of nuclear war. Or this was actually a dude who kind of thought he was an alien from Venus that met several people and was very charming and very witty, and like maybe he convinced a few people that he actually was an alien from Venus. You know, he had a strong message to the world, so that's a possibility that they just bought into it. You know.
So let me break down the 3 things you just said there real quick. Okay, 1, probably most likely Dr. Frank Stranges found something that hit a nerve with people in the 50s. Post 1947, Roswell, you got to realize this is like the height of the UFO. Yeah. This is the beginning of the UFO pandemonium, right? We've got the battle over Los Angeles. You've had UFOs supposedly flying over the Capitol building before Valiant Thor shows up. All right, so there's that. 2, I will agree with you. I don't know about Valiant Thor landing in Alexandria, Virginia to stop, Cold War, but there is sort of documentation that UFO sightings and all this sort of this niche, this community, does start to develop heightened. I know there's the ancient alien stuff that but after 1947, like something about the nuclear weapon dropping and devastating, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, all of a sudden there's all sorts of UFO activity regarding Area 51, New Mexico, like out where they're testing the weapons around power plants. So there's definitely like a link not related to Valiant Thor with aliens and nuclear activity. So I will give you that. The third one that you just said is there's a guy who's walking around that sounds like a total psychopath to me that thinks he's an alien from another world, and everyone just fucking spoon feeds his story and like, yeah, dude, by the way, do you want to meet the president? Like, is that what was going on in the 1950s? You could be like, I'm an alien from Venus. I want to meet the president. And they're like, come on in. Like,
hey, dude, it's totally possible. I mean, for example, like Ted Bundy. He was very handsome. He was very charming. Yet when you met him, you didn't think he was a serial killer, but he happened to be a serial killer.
You just made my point. That dude was a fucking psychopath. You just used
well, that's what I'm saying.
You used a psychopath to try to refute my point that Valiant Thor could have been a psychopath.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. That was one of my points. It could
so you agree?
Be a psychopath, but a psychopath can be charming and witty and convince people of something else.
Right, you have to be, because you have to live. You have to live and embody your lie. That's the only way other people buy into it. Because if you don't buy into the lie, no one else will, right? So here's the thing with Valiant Thor. So he shows up. He's on the radar for 3 years. People claim to have met him. There was this woman. So Frankie Strange's claims is that he was introduced to Valiant Thor and how he met Valiant Thor. Somehow he became aware of this story. All right, and I'm sorry if I'm a little foggy on the details, because this is the maddening feeling you get when you try to research the story. But anyway, somehow he's aware of Valiant Thor. He's talking about Valiant Thor. There's a woman who works at the Pentagon who somehow has access, reaches out to him at one of his talks, and says, "Hey, like I can get you to meet Valiant if you want." And he's, "Oh yeah, hell yeah, I'll jump at that." So apparently she like is walking him, gets him access to the White House. There's like 3 separate checkpoints to get to the back room where Valiant's hanging out doing his thing. Apparently he has an office and a computer or whatever he does. Oh, 1950s, he doesn't have like a laptop there, but whatever he's doing, he's got a corner office or something. But this is where like the story sort of jumps off, which is like, for me, I start to be like, this is total horseshit. She's got like a badge underneath like an overcoat, and this is like straight out of some like Dick Tracy cartoon. She's like, I'm just gonna flash my badge, and they'll wave us through the checklist. Just do as I say, do as I do. And he's like, okay. So she opens her lapel, and there's her badge, and they're like, okay, come on through. He does the same thing. He has no badge. He's like Mr. Magoo, like, and they just wave him through. Like, Secret Service and military people, I'm sorry, you can't just like walk into the Pentagon or the White House and like not be somehow accosted. You know what I mean?
I mean, nowadays, I think back then it was a lot easier to get away with stuff. Like it takes things to, for example, I mean, even today, people are sneaking into the Super Bowl just by carrying a ladder. Like, you can easily deceive people if you are convicted and you know that you're true, walking through and you're self-confident. I think especially in the 50s and 60s you could get away with some of that stuff.
But that's like a one-time thing. So I mean, and then that's just like one small story. When I was doing research, I was watching people's YouTube videos and stuff, and so that was just like one brief. He goes on to like say things about Valiant, and then in speeches later he has contradictory statements. So he's really tough to follow. But apparently, so just to kind of wrap up Frank Strange's version of Valiant Thor, he said that Valiant was 490 years old by the time he met him. So he's relatively or somewhat immortal. I'm not sure Valiant ever left. I don't know. But what he did is he apparently parked his spaceship out near Lake Mead, Nevada, near Vegas. And Frank Strange has talked about how they had a special car that could like detach from the spaceship, and it ran on water, and they were like driving around Vegas, and it could like turn invisible and cloak and do all these things. So he had all these like crazy stories that were like Three Stooges-esque with him and Valiant Thor cruising around. So it's definitely,
why not, man?
It's definitely entertaining. Yeah, it's definitely entertaining. Yeah. But here's the one that here's the one that interests me. Okay. Tomas, bring up the other picture. So there's another picture of a supposed Valiant Thor that looks nothing like the guy with the brown hair coif. Okay. So here it is. Here's one with the red circle. It's a total like tall Nordic looking dude with like a blonde or gray like buzz cut. It's a black and white photo, so it's tough to tell. But he's clearly like
jaw.
Yeah, this guy looks like an alien to me, right? Like, or he's like
some. Head. What do you mean he looks like an alien? He looks like a dude.
Look at that jaw. He's either an alien or he looks like Dolph Lundgren is what he looks like.
So you're saying Dolph Lundgren looks like an alien?
He does kind of, yeah. Okay, so here's the interesting thing about this photo. This is the only photo. There's only 2 photos of Valiant Thor, and the guys look totally different. Here's why this one piques my interest. So on that photo, the guy that's right to the immediate right of the supposed Valiant Thor is a guy named Oscar Schneider, and that is a real person that you can look up, and he really did work for the military, okay, and he was involved in some high profile cases. One that I'm not so familiar with, the Philadelphia Project,
the Philadelphia experiment.
Yeah, so what was that again, Phyllis?
So the Philadelphia experiment was, I believe it was an experiment of Tesla, Nikola Tesla, actually. And so, I mean, there's a lot of gray area with this as well, but
there always is.
There was this battleship that supposedly went through a wormhole, and it just disappeared. They used this technology, and the battleship literally just disappeared. And when it reappeared, supposedly, I mean, they never released this. Supposedly, a lot of the seamen, the Navy officials on the ship melded into the walls of the battleship. And so, I mean, if that really happened, they probably said, "Sorry, we can't. My bad. Let's just hide this." Sweep it under the rug of America. This never happened.
Wow.
Nicola, what else you got in your journal there that we can work with?
Right. So a ship goes through
he was
a wormhole.
On that? He was part of that?
He was part of that. He was part of that story. And so he has a loose link to already extraterrestrial. I mean, it's not a real extraterrestrial. I don't know what you would call it, but like fringy science military operations. Let's say he's part of that. Okay. Now the reason why this is significant is because Oscar Schneider. The photo comes from Oscar Schneider's son, whose name is Phil Schneider. And if you have been involved in the UFO community whatsoever at all, you're going to recognize the name Phil Schneider. It immediately triggered me. Why do we know the name Phil Schneider? So Phil Schneider is a gentleman who worked for the defense contractors and worked with the military on DUMBs, D-U-M-B, deep underground military bases. And what he claimed, and sort of this was like his famous statement, was that he was working on, they were working on creating a DUM in, I want to say it was Dulce Air Base, the one that you're terrified to go to. I've wanted to go out there and UFO hunt. Just for the record, Dustin's scared because he doesn't want to get abducted.
Supposedly our government is working with several different alien races that live and work in that air base underground, and I don't want to mess with that. Supposedly there's good aliens, supposedly there's bad aliens, and I don't want to be fed to the bad aliens.
So this you segue perfectly. So that's where Phil Schneider is saying we're drilling into this mountain. This is a real army base that exists. They're drilling into the base to go down and create these tunnels. They strike like metal or something, and they punch through, and they open up into a chamber that is already pre-populated with extraterrestrials, and they are hostile, and they get in a firefight with the extraterrestrials, And he's down there with like Navy SEALs, Delta Force, commandos, and they're having a gunfight, and the aliens are shooting lasers and stuff, and he gets hit. Okay, he says he takes a hit to his leg and to his abdomen, and he gets we lose soldiers down there and stuff, and he gets like dragged out of the firefight, and there's a video of him online because he's telling this story to people, and he's holding up his shirt and he's showing the scars. Okay, I'm not a medical expert. I don't know. Could he have had like his appendix removed and that's the scar he's showing us? Sure. Okay, so debunkers, leave me alone.
But his father was involved in the Philadelphia experiment. So.
You've got the father involved in the Philadelphia experiment. All of a sudden, Phil Schneider is now also in the same fringy military exercises that his father was. Phil Schneider, like 6 months after going on record, doing that video, showing his gut, talking about the firefight and all that stuff, mysteriously ends up dead. So his friends called, haven't heard from him for 3 days. They find his body in his apartment. Originally, it was ruled like death by like stroke or something like that. But then the medical examiner researched his body. So the police say it's a stroke, natural causes. The medical examiner says he was asphyxiated. So he was found with what looked like he was choked with like rubber cord. I think he had like an oxygen tank or something like that. And it looks like he was strangled with the rubber cord. So they changed it to like undecided or whatever they call like, so anyway, mysterious death around Phil Schneider. So anyway, the reason I bring that up is you've got one guy selling books, peddling this stuff back in the 60s, that you're like, is he telling the truth? I don't know. Then you've got this guy who, people love to sort of hate on because his claims are fantastical, who was in a firefight with an alien race, right? I can see how you would roll your eyes at that, but he seems to have a little bit more lineage. And if his dad was sitting like within 6 feet, not properly social distanced, pre-COVID era, he's right next to supposed Valiant Thor. That's the story that's the kind of the outlet that intrigued me the most. So I know I wanted to bring that up. Did you have any questions on that?
Was Phil the only one that came out about that story? Because it sounds like there were several people that would potentially be involved.
The picture was put out by Phil, and it was like, I don't know, like in a shoebox or something that he had from his father's not remains, but like, I don't know, keepsakes or whatever. As far as I know.
I mean, whoever that blonde dude is in there, he must have been important because he got front row seats to wherever they're at. So,
right.
And he's no one sitting real close to him, which is also interesting. I mean, there could be this could be a number of things. I mean, maybe the story of Valiant Thor is true, and Frankie Strange's just kind of fed off of that and kind of developed his own story, put out his own picture to promote his work and financially gain off of. And either way, it's very interesting to me, man.
So you know what really this story is almost like frustrating how it just like, it's a brain tease, right? Like it makes your brain cramp to try to think about it. You're like, there's these two Valiant Thors existing in the 50s and 60s, and they've got their hands in presidents' pockets and they're meddling. But like, there's also a third Valiant Thor that I don't think most people are aware of, but this is the Valiant Thor that is near and dear to my heart, which is from the 2000s, right?
It's your favorite band, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's his communication platform. So instead of working with government policy, he's been touring the world, melting faces and playing rock and roll shows. And I think, to be honest, the only one who can sort of answer and figure out this riddle for us would be contacting Valiant himself. Would you agree?
Absolutely, man. I think you'd have a wonderful perspective on this. Let's dial him up.
You know what we should do? Tomas, call up Valiant right now. Get him on the line. Let's go interview Valiant himself and see what he has to say on this. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We are sitting down here live with Valiant himself. Dustin, this is a huge honor. Look who decided to show up today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man.
Alois, how's it going?
Good, dude. Good. alive.
So Valiant himself, I feel like Wayne's World a little bit, where I'm like, we're not worthy, you know, we suck. So Valiant himself, the front man of my favorite band, which is Valiant Thor, which we're representing right here, is sitting down with us today. And Valiant, I was wondering if you could kind of walk us through. I only know some of the bullet points that you're a stranger from Venus, I've been told. But can you kind of fill us in terms of how you came about?
It's a really, really long story. I don't know if you want the whole thing, but I'm from inside of the planet Venus originally.
Inside.
It's a town called Berlatia. It's a city, really, but I'm not even sure if it's still there anymore. It's been eons and eons and eons since we lived there. The way the time streams are, it's if you think about something like a reference for popular culture, the way time streams work is if you picture all those trickly things that go down in the Matrix movies, where they're trying to explain things through a what we call the lime green net, and that means that there are time streams all along, just everywhere, going through space, through everywhere. And, you know, some people visualize them as wormholes or tunnels, but each choice, I mean, there's a shitty old movie called Mr. Destiny that had John Belushi's brother in it. And he's like, he's like always like, fuck, man, if I would have just hit the baseball, like everything would have worked out in my life. I would have got the girl and all this crap. But right. You know, then some like Michael Caine shows up and he's like, let's just show you what would have happened. It's like Uncle Scrooge type shit. But
the ghost of Christmas future. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, you know, you should be aware that there are worlds that coexist along this, like right now. You know,
you're talking about dimensions, right?
Yeah, of course. However, this particular time stream doesn't have the technology to breach that wall, if you will. We can't get into any other time streams. However, there are people here from other time streams. I'm not just one of them. There's many of them. And, you know, I had a whole crew of characters who came along with me a long, long time ago in the beginning. And we got here and we aren't the Valiant. I'm not the Valiant Thor that your government talked about in whatever
1957.
Right. And we did come here similarly in another. We came to this time stream twice. It's like lightning doesn't strike. We actually did come to this time stream in the 50s, split again with an intact, you would call it a spaceship that would be able to breach these things. But the second time we got here was around 2000, and we've been stuck ever since. The technology actually has been confiscated. And we're basically, you know, that sort of led all the paths after that. If I want to, I can kind of wrap things up on some
you're doing
shit.
Great.
Or I can go on forever explaining the fucking.
I love it.
So you wrecked your ship, is what I've been told, and that you are trying to find ways to repair it. You're traveling the country and the world for that matter?
Not anymore. We were in the beginning, and let's go ahead and put this out there. I didn't wreck shit.
Who was driving?
Who was drinking?
I have a great driving record. I mean, I have impeccable driving skills. I have a nose for direction. You know, and let's just say I'm a great pilot. I've driven many Earth vehicles,
right?
Many Earth miles, if you will. But yeah, I digress. First of all, I'm not trying to get off this planet anymore. We've made this planet our home. I don't think there's a Venus to go back to, because much like the people who are in charge of this planet, the people who were in charge of that planet didn't give a fuck about the people. They didn't give a fuck about anything but themselves. Much like the leaders here. And there's no planet left to go back to, much like there will be no planet here.
It's
left.
basically covered in battery acid. It's like a 200-degree core or surface, I've been told.
Right. And I think probably at one time, way before, I was born, that there was people who did live on the outside of Venus, but that was way before my time. The world was already ruined by world wars by the time we were alive, and everyone had retreated to the inside of the planet. But I don't even, like I said, we've been so out of communique with them. I have no idea if anybody's there at all anymore anyway. But I know I'm going to keep doing this just because that's the way my brains work. But one of the things that I noticed ultimately, like before we had come here, if you do some research on Valiant Thor, the Valiant Thor from 1957, from that timeline, from Eisenhower, there's a bunch of pictures. A lot of them will show this dude with a black coif, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of them there's one very famous one. Somebody tagged me in one even this morning. That's a guy who has blonde hair. He looks like a Popeye or something. Like he's like a tough sailor.
We have those. We do. We have both those images. If you look at your screen, we're popping them up right now.
Now, so I have no idea who that guy is, that blonde guy. But that's not me.
He's an imposter, right? And then there's the other one.
Okay, so this is the one in the middle there. That is Don Thor, and the one over to the right, that's supposedly Valiant. But that's not me.
That's not you, obviously.
That's a
very different hair color.
Well, I mean,
you let the coif go
black
a
and white.
bit.
I'm gonna say, I don't know. Like if I trimmed up and
I like you just the way you are, Valiant. Don't ever change, brother.
I wouldn't, especially to look like this dude. But I'm just saying, like, some of those. I think that if there are people who would place their whole reputations saying that is him, I don't want to discount it. I would say that it's quite possible that in the different time streams, a whole host of the same people trying to get something done may have come here. The same Valiant Thor may have come. He may have been different, may have had different mothers, genetically different things, different traits would have come to him. I mean, we could back so far out of this story that we said that, okay, I'm just an Earthman who, that the guy from 57 with the dark hair, he did live here. He escaped. Nobody saw him ever again after 62, but he just married some chick from Vegas and they moved to North Carolina and he died and he got buried and grass grew from his grave and some cow ate that grass. And then that cow's turned into a hamburger. And then my mom ate that hamburger and then she had my dad and my dad had me. And I would be Valiant Thor, but a descendant in a different way. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Just the spice. However, none of that's true. I am a different Valiant Thor from a different time stream. So I'm just saying there's many ways to interpret all these things. And, but you want to know, I don't know. I'm going to let you guys guide it. I'm just going to ramble until you shut me up.
Yeah. What brought you here in the first place? What brought you and your crew to Earth?
To try to save, to try to show that, hey, it's almost like a Superman story. It's like, hey, we ruined our planet. We can't even not only can we not live on the outside, but we can't even live on the inside anymore. We were sent as meteorologists to find a new home, and then we come here and we see that the people in charge are such morons that they are completely destroying this planet, and they don't even have a plan. They don't even care. So basically, I didn't go to this one. It's impossible to get close to any of these characters now without getting assassinated or getting locked up or saying that you're crazy or whatever. But this back then, when we came the first time, it was very easy to get in there and get away. But it wasn't even the same. Just like I wasn't the same Valiant Thor, that wasn't the same Eisenhower that's celebrated in this timeline. So basically, he met with this ufologist who was just like a Jerry Falwell character, and who was there at the Pentagon. They were having some kind of thing. This guy got really interested in it, and there's many, many, many people on this earth who will say, that are still alive, that worked in that administration, who say, yeah, there was a man named Valiant Thor there. He had clothes that you could just touch and they would seal, and he had no
zipper.
Yeah, no fingerprints on any of his hands, no ways to identify them, like normal human means. And so, but what I'm saying is, like, that Valiant Thor came to try to convince this planet that they're not even close to being the only people out there. There's many, many different forms of life in many, many different places out in space. Yet they won't reveal themselves to people who are so warlike, and that they will just kill them without thinking of life. So if the species brains are so small that they can't handle truths that there are beyond their own wanting of things, like I need something to eat, I need to stay alive, and that's it. I don't care about this one. If they would kill their own kind at all, then they're not ready yet. So
from a malicious consumer race,
basically.
I'm with you. So Earth is chosen because Venus is, I believe, is our closest planet. So was it just a hop, skip, and a jump for you to get over here? Is that why this was the first stop, or was there other stops intended along the way?
Oh, there was lots of places picked out, but this was like convenient real estate, man. Right next door.
Right. Location, man.
Super easy, man. I mean, like, if we could come down here and convince everybody not to kill us, or convince them not to piss us off to where we would want to kill you, then hey, man, like, this is a great place. There's fruits and vegetables and lots of good music. It's cool.
So Valiant, I believe that I don't know if Elon Musk was part of your crew, but he seems to be hell-bent on getting the human race to the moon and then Mars thereafter. Do you have any feelings or comments as far as, do we belong on Mars? Have you been to Mars? What do you think as far as the next step in human civilization is, as far as a spacefaring nation?
I just think you should take care of the planet that you have. I mean, I never tried to set out to be a spaceman. We only did it out of necessity. And I guess that's what their plan is, maybe to get all the rich people off Blade Runner style. But I don't know, man. I don't trust Elon Musk. I think he's kind of just a capitalist. I think he says big things because there's not a lot of other people who are that rich who say similar things, you know.
Right,
if I was that rich, I would say those things, and I would try to do things to put my money where my mouth is. I wouldn't worry about I don't know. Well, I don't know what I would do. If I was rich, I might have a whole different story for you.
Nice, different perspective.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the ship, that since you're no longer trying to leave and you're no longer trying to repair the ship, is this the same ship that is reportedly parked just outside of Lake Mead, Las Vegas, or is that the other Valiant ship? Is your ship parked somewhere else, or is this the same ship we're talking?
It's 100% the same ship, but there's more than one version of it, because gotcha. I don't know if that Valiant Thor that came in this time stream ever left. It's supposedly in Lake Mead, Nevada. I don't know. I heard that it had been spotted around Mount Shasta. I have no idea.
Interesting.
We crash landed in North Carolina. Our ship was crashed. It was destroyed and salvaged. Some of the pieces were salvaged to make instruments for some of our early records. Some of the things were stolen, and some of them were sold to survive.
Well, that's a great segue. So in terms of we've got Venusians landing here in North Carolina. Why rock and roll? Why is rock and roll the choice of communication for an alien civilization to come down on Earth and to communicate? Is that the universal language?
Quite possibly. However, it wasn't our first choice. Like I said, we were like weathermen, we were like meteorologists, but that wasn't going to work because nobody pays attention to environmental factors. So we had to figure out something else. So we thought, well, we'll teach them. We'll become teachers. And so I worked as a teacher in North Carolina for a while, but they don't pay teachers even as much as Burger King workers. So that would never work either, unless maybe you got a union or whatever. So we thought, all right, let's forget about money. Let's get a job where you don't make any money at all. And so we chose rock and roll because you don't make any money at all. However, people will listen to rock and roll more than they would listen to a teacher, especially if you really rock, if you're really good at it. So,
which you guys are.
We made sure we were absolutely the best. So we entered a lot of, Universal World Championship, rock and roll champions. We were rock and roll champions of the goddamn universe many, many years in a row. You don't have to believe any of it if you don't want to. All you have to do is think about this. Like, do something like that with your life if you're led in a way, and watch what happens. When we finally announced Valiant Thor was going to be the name of the band and reveal ourselves, we made it difficult for ourselves because we spelled it weirdly. If you notice, the spelling of Valiant Thor, the band, is different from Valiant Thor. And if you look at between the V and the T, it says alien. And then there's 2 R's for rock and roll. And we made that as just to keep them separated, because we were like, all right, I don't want some guy who is trying to like take our, the name and
right.
And make it, like I didn't want to get sued. Right, I didn't want to get sued. So
alien is in the middle of that. There you go.
Yeah.
But it's not even copywritten because this guy really met Frank Strange has really met Valiant Thor. Thor. And once we named it that, the very first website we had, it doesn't even work anymore. It was an East Carolina website that we built, but just the way search engines work, there was a whole group of people who had many articles about how they had met him and how they worked at the Pentagon with him. And we got contacted by a guy from Australia who sent a picture of me and him on top of a mountain in Australia. And I never been to Australia, with hair longer than I'd ever had my hair before. And he had this lady from Chicago. You could Google this. Her name is Omnek Onek. She was from a different time stream in Venus, and she reached out and said that she came here after everything that we had done, and we did all we could do, and we were lauded as heroes and all this crazy stuff. So, she's like, you didn't make it back, but you did find a home because your home is there now. And she's right. Like, we set out to find a new home, and here we are. Here we have it. So, sometimes it might not be the ideal thing that you accomplish when you set a goal in front of yourself. But if you slow down for just a moment and look around, you might have gotten what you wanted anyway, just in a different way. And so I appreciate all the weirdos. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I'm one of those weirdos. My question is, were you and the crew jamming back in Venus, or did you learn rock and roll out here? Did you learn how to play out here together?
I've always been an artist. I can't even jam. I'm not even that good of a singer, to be honest with you. But everybody just, that was like, there was like, let him do it. He won't shut up. So the rest of them, absolutely every single crew member who has ever been with us knows how to jam. Yeah. Like beyond. I wouldn't be able to play with them though. I mean, I can do I can't even do the most rudimentary of anything. My brain's not wired for it, I guess you'd say. I admire anyone who can play instruments well.
On your records, and I think I've seen you're somewhat of a self-described wordsmith, which I would have to agree with. I'd have to say some of my favorite parts of the records are your, I don't know what to call them, poems, speeches, interludes. How do you go about sort of crafting your message, and what is sort of your message? Does it change album to album? And can you just kind of walk us through some of your lyrical prowess, I suppose, because I think that's sort of your part of your band's strong suit.
Well, that's my strong suit. Like I said, I can't play any of the instruments, but so my strength would be the words. I did study lots of Earth poets, whether they knew they were poets or not. People like Mark Mothersbaugh, from Devo. I think that him and Jerry Casale's philosophy is one of the utmost forward-thinking philosophies, not just in music, but just as a philosophy, in life. And it came from their own experiences. But to be able to like tap into that and grab it and grab that lesson and see that it shows their genius. I also studied Jim Morrison. I studied people like Bon Scott,
Yes.
and it was just different things. You wear your influences on your sleeve, or I do.
Absolutely.
I really like people like that, and I did study a lot more poets like E. Cummings. I studied a lot of beat poetry. I used to do poems and spoken word and things like that until we started writing songs with them, and especially in the early stuff, it comes through, and every once in a while we'll bring it back and start something off with like a lyrical interlude or something like that. But yeah, it's always been one of my favorite things. Not a whole lot of people do it in their songs, but there are people who do it. Now it just I dig it. I'm glad people do it, and I see more and more of it. Sometimes.
I dig it too, man. The We Believe in Science off of Total Universe, man, is probably that 3-track sort of meld there that you kind of do where they bleed into one another is probably my favorite breakdown riff of all time. Awesome workout music.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm just, like the way time moves now and how things have happened in the last 3 years, it just shows me that I'm just thankful that anybody has even heard of us, because you can do something every single day for 17 years. And then all of a sudden, like, one little thing will change and you have to sort of go in a different direction, and you go, I'll do this for a minute. It's just a pause.
Right.
We'll go back to it. But sometimes you can't. I mean, we can go back. Unfortunately, for the whole COVID situation, I actually was supposed to be in Europe for the last few months on tour, much like everybody else. But we were actually coming back. We hadn't toured since the end of 2017, but we were supposed to be back on the road. But I just
Mother Nature had other ideas for us.
Yeah,
all, right?
Things happen. Shit happens.
Well, let me tell people that have not had the fortune of seeing you play. I've seen you play a handful of times. I've seen you play in front of large audiences. I've seen you play in front of very small audiences. And one of the things that keeps me so vigilant as a fan of yours is whether you're playing for 5 people or 5,000 people, you get the same Valiant Thor show. It does not matter the indoor, outdoor, the atmosphere. You bring it every time, you and your bandmates. What sort of compels you in terms of let's transition into showmanship here. So your stage presence is like none other I've ever seen. And like I said, whether you're playing for a sold out house or you're playing a house party, what's going on in your head? How do you bring it like that every day, like you said, for 17 years?
I mean, you have to. There's no way to people came out to see you. You're 3,000 miles or 5,000 miles from home, and they might not even speak your language yet. They're there because someone told them that you had something to say. So are you going to sit on your ass and have an attitude about some outside problem, or are you going to do your job? I mean, there's so many people who would have killed to do what we did for that long amount of time. And we never ever forgot that. Not one night. There's not a night where, even if I've been sick as a dog and just rocking through it because we had to do it, right. You can't give someone a half-ass show because that's what you stake your reputation on. And if you, they're not gonna believe you if you come. It would be like lying to the audience. And we tell the truth.
Right.
We speak the truth to you. Say,
Amen,
hey,
brother.
Here's the truth.
Amen, brother.
But yeah, I look forward to jamming again as well, and I appreciate doing stuff like this because it gives you a minute to reflect on. You do wear a lot of hats. You have to almost wear a lot of hats in this world. Like some people. Right. I don't even get to do the thing that I like to do the most. Is I really like to just paint, man. I have a master's degree.
I didn't even get to touch on that. I was going to bring that up. I didn't even get to touch on that. Perfect.
Well, I have to do the whole thing is in all of these things is whenever like you go, well, I notice it all comes from perspective, like we were saying earlier, because the longer you're around, the more you get to see all, how the inner workings of every situation. And like the more they happen, you go, okay. And you kind of see the perspective of the person you completely disagree with, and you see how that, and you go, okay, well, I don't agree with you, but like, here's where we can come together. And that kind of like attitude is harder and harder in this world because things get so sectioned off, and, especially with politics, like it gets so hard because I feel like sometimes I don't even want to talk to people who think a certain way because, but that is the thing is like, if we're so cut off from them that we can't sway them to the positive side, then is there any hope left? Will we have to dig holes and go to the inside of this planet to live? I don't know.
Well, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and I think that's because we're supposed to listen twice as much. Would you agree?
That's what my Earth dad told me.
A lot. So did you design, are you the culprit for designing these kick-ass, because you do have fantastic album art. I mean, Old Salt, the Zeus-like character that you've got going there. Are these coming out of you?
I painted that.
Is that coming from you?
I would say that it's 50-50 me and my best Earth friend is Tyler Wolf. And he was Dr. Professor Nightwolf Strangies is his real name, the Nightwolf. Or if you look him up on Instagram, I'd love to plug his Instagram. He's called Wolf Knight, WOLFNITE, Wolf Knight, Wolf Knight, Nightwolf. He's a great artist, and he did a lot of it. I did a lot of it. He created that the logo there, and I drew that shirt. I actually did that artwork, and that's sort of a Jack Kirby. That's a tribute to Jack Kirby. He's like my favorite comic book artist. I have artwork for sale at ValiantHimself.com. If you just look that up, or if you just look up, if you want to see and you want me to just make you something, anybody out there, if you look up hashtag on Instagram or whatever, Valiant Himself's art, just Valiant Himself's art, Valiant Himself's art.
Yeah. So thank you so much for all the time you've been able to give us, man. Holy smokes. That was awesome.
That was so good.
That guy is on another level, right?
Another planet. Well, I guess he's on this planet now.
He's on our planet from another time stream.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there you go, guys. We've got multiple Valiant Thors, different time streams. We've got a cacophony of there's the man, the myth, and the legend, right? All in once. Valiant Thor is a larger-than-life character, and obviously it takes on many forms and shapes the more you dig into it, right?
I like to believe in it all.
Yeah. So, Dustin, if people want to find out more about Valiant himself and his band Valiant Thor with 2 R's, where can they track him down?
Yeah, Valiant Thor with 2 R's, and then it's an alien between the A and the V and the T. And you can find him at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Valiant Thor Band. You can also find Valiant Himself's artwork at ValiantHimself.com. And if you're in the Richmond, Virginia area, make sure to check out a couple of his restaurants. We got Hot for Pizza. And if you get a little thirsty, go over to Cobra Cabana. Have yourself a little cocktail. So I know
wet your whistle.
Next time I'm through Virginia, I'll be stopping by.
Amen, brother. So guys, don't forget to check us out at IBelieveInHumansPodcast.com. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and please subscribe, rate, review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment. I'm having a blast exchanging with a lot of people. A lot of interesting comments these days on the social media sphere. So keep them coming, guys. I enjoy interacting with you guys. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And always remember, guys, it's okay to believe.
You're not alone.
Peace.
See you next time.
That's one small step for man,
Welcome to Earth.
one giant leap for mankind.
What's up, man? It's Rick.
UFOs are real.